Listen, young men, this is something you need to grasp. You don't earn respect, admiration, or even obsession by begging for it. You get those things by becoming someone worthy of them. And most of you, let's be honest, are chasing validation instead of building value. The brutal truth, if a woman doesn't value you, it's because you haven't demonstrated that you're valuable enough. Or worse, because you've revealed that you're desperate for her approval. And nothing kills attraction faster than desperation. So what do? You shift your focus inward. You stop making her the prize and start making yourself the prize. If you want a woman or anyone to value you, you must first become a man of value. This is not some abstract concept. It is a brutal, undeniable truth. People do not admire the weak. They do not chase what is easily obtained. They do not respect those who lack self-respect. And yet, so many men wonder why they are ignored, why they are cast aside, why they are treated as an option rather than a priority. The answer is simple. They have done nothing to earn admiration. The world does not owe you attention. No woman owes you her interest. You do not receive admiration simply because you desire it. You receive admiration because you become undeniable. And that begins with how you see yourself. If you move through life desperate for external validation, you have already lost. Because the moment you rely on someone else to define your worth, you become a puppet to their approval. You must become a force unto yourself, a man so grounded in his own self-worth that others cannot help but take notice. A woman cannot value a man who does not value himself. This is not a negotiable truth. If you tolerate disrespect, you invite more of it. If you accept mediocrity in yourself, others will treat you accordingly. If you allow your life to be dictated by the whims of others, you surrender all power. You must become the standard. You must define the terms of your own existence. The world does not shape the strong shape the world. And you must decide, are you going to be the man who bends to the world or the man who forces the world to bend to him? Your self-worth is not given, it is built. It is forged in the fires of discipline, challenge, and relentless self-improvement. You cannot fake confidence. You cannot pretend to be valuable. You must become valuable. That means developing your mind, sharpening your skills, and embracing discomfort. Growth does not come from ease. It comes from resistance, from pushing beyond what is comfortable, from facing your fears head on. Men who are valued are not men who seek permission. They are not men who ask for validation. They are men who command respect by the sheer force of their presence. And presence is not about appearance alone. It is about competence. It is about depth of character. It is about carrying yourself in a way that signals, I do not need your approval because I approve of myself. There is a biological reality at play. Women are drawn to strength, to certainty, to purpose. They are not drawn to indecision, to fragility, to neediness. You do not need to be the loudest person in the room. You need to be the most unshakable. A man who is certain of himself does not need to prove it. His actions speak louder than his words. His choices demonstrate his value long before he utters a single sentence. You must elevate yourself. In every aspect of your life, you must strive for excellence. You must be disciplined in your body, your mind, your finances, your ambitions, because every moment you waste in complacency is a moment you surrender to someone who is willing to do the work. And the world, especially the world of attraction, rewards the disciplined and punishes the weak. There is no shortcut to being valued. You cannot fake high status. You cannot trick someone into admiring you for long. If you want to be truly valued, you must earn it. And you earn it through relentless self-betterment. You do not need to announce your worth. The truly valuable never need to say a word. They are known. A woman will never obsess over a man she can control. She will never be drawn to a man who bends to her every whim. She will never admire a man who lacks conviction. You must be willing to walk away. You must be willing to stand alone if necessary. You must be willing to uphold your standards, even if it means losing people who refuse to meet them. Because when you set a standard, you force others to rise to meet it, or they remove themselves from your life. Most men operate from a place of fear of rejection, fear of being alone, fear of losing someone who never valued them to begin with. And that fear keeps them weak. It keeps them stuck in cycles of validation seeking, of approval chasing, of diminishing themselves just to be tolerated. But a man who truly values himself has no fear. He knows that his worth is not contingent on anyone else. He knows that he is the prize. And when you become the prize, people fight to win you. The difference between a man who is ignored and a man who is admired is not luck. It is not genetics. It is not some mystical force. It is self-respect. It is self-discipline. It is an unrelenting commitment to being the best version of himself, not for the sake of others, but because he demands it of himself. And that kind of man, the man who is unbreakable in his pursuit of greatness, cannot be ignored. So stop seeking external validation. Stop waiting for permission to be valuable. Stop allowing others to dictate your self-worth. Take ownership of yourself. Master your mind, your body, your ambitions. Become the man that no one can overlook, because when you do, admiration, respect, and even obsession are inevitable. If something is always available, it loses its value. The human mind is wired to take abundance for granted. What is common is overlooked. What is easy to obtain is discarded. What is always within reach is never desired. The second you become predictable, the moment you are always there, you become background noise in someone else's life. The people who command the most attention are the ones who are not easily accessible. The moment something is at risk of being lost, its value multiplies. People do not crave what is handed to them. They crave what they must earn. The reason most men are ignored is that they are always there. They text too much. They call too much. They chase relentlessly. They remove all sense of mystery, all sense of uncertainty. They make it too easy. They allow themselves to be taken for granted. A woman cannot desire what she does not fear losing. And when you are always available, when you are always giving, when you are always within reach, she has no reason to chase you. You have given her nothing to miss. The psychology of scarcity is undeniable. The moment something is perceived as rare, it becomes valuable. It becomes sought after. It becomes something people fight for. If a woman knows you will always be there no matter how she treats you, she has no incentive to value you. If she knows you are always waiting, she has no reason to chase. The man who is scarce commands attention without even trying. The man who is always available becomes invisible. You must create distance. You must create uncertainty. You must make your time, your presence, your energy something that is not easily obtained. The moment you pull away, the moment you stop chasing, the moment you stop being predictable, you become a puzzle to solve instead of an option to ignore. If you are always texting first, stop. If you are always available at her convenience, become busy. If you are always seeking her validation, shift your focus inward. The second you become the one who is slightly out of reach, she will begin to wonder. She will begin to chase. She will begin to feel the weight of your absence. Scarcity triggers desire because it activates fear. The fear of loss, the fear of missing out, the fear of watching something valuable slip away. This is not manipulation. This is reality. Look at the world. The most exclusive things are the most desired. The rarest objects are the most expensive. The people who are hardest to reach are the most respected. When you are too accessible, you lower your worth. When you become something that must be earned, you become something that is desired. A woman does not obsess over a man she can control. She does not chase a man who is always waiting. She does not value a man who does not value his own time. If you do not create an element of scarcity, you eliminate all tension, and tension is the foundation of attraction. Uncertainty breeds desire. When she does not know where she stands with you, when she is unsure if she has your full attention, when she senses that you have a life beyond her, she starts thinking about you. She starts prioritizing you. She starts needing your presence. Most men make the mistake of believing that the more they give, the more they are valued. But overgiving breeds entitlement, not appreciation. The harder you try to prove your worth, the more you reveal your lack of value. A man who is truly valuable does not need to prove it. His absence speaks louder than words. His time is earned, not given away freely. The moment you show that you are not desperate for her, she starts becoming desperate for you. There is a reason why people desire what they cannot have. There is a reason why the most sought-after men are the ones who seem slightly out of reach. It is because their time is precious. Their focus is not on chasing, it is on building. They do not need validation from a woman because they are too busy conquering their own world. And that very absence of need is what makes them irresistible. Every time you remove yourself, every time you do not respond instantly, every time you show that you are not waiting by your phone, you shift the power. You create curiosity. You make her wonder what you are doing. You make her question why she does not have your full attention. And the more she questions, the more she thinks about you. The more she thinks about you, the more she starts chasing. Men who are scarce do not need to beg for attention. They do not need to convince anyone of their worth. They are respected because they are not easily obtained. A man who knows his value is a man who does not give himself away to just anyone. He does not seek approval. He does not base his self-worth on someone else's validation. And because of that, people fight for his attention. They compete for his presence. They crave what they cannot easily have. The moment a woman believes she has you completely, the chase is over. And when the chase is over, attraction dies. People only chase what is running away from them. People only value what they fear losing. People only desire what they feel is just beyond their grasp. The second you remove yourself from the equation, the second you create distance, the second you show that you are not dependent on her attention, you become a force that demands respect. Scarcity is not about playing games. It is about shifting your mindset from chasing to attracting. It is about knowing that you do not need to be constantly present to be valued. It is about realizing that people only obsess over what they feel they might lose. It is about understanding that if you want to be desired, you must not be easily obtained. Neediness is repulsive. It signals weakness, desperation, and a lack of self-sufficiency. No one values a man who needs external validation to function. The moment you require someone else's approval to feel whole, you have already lost. The man who chases, who begs, who clings is the man who is discarded. The second you become emotionally dependent, you surrender all power. The second you rely on someone else for your sense of worth, you become disposable. People respect those who do not need them. The more you need her, the less she wants you. A man who cannot control his emotions is a man who cannot command respect. When you are reactive, when you overthink, when you overanalyze every word and action, you betray your lack of inner stability. You expose your insecurities. You reveal that you are controlled by external forces instead of being grounded in your own self-worth. A woman cannot admire a man who is emotionally weak. She cannot desire a man who is at her mercy. She cannot chase a man who is already crawling at her feet. The man who is stable, who is unshaken, who is centered in himself is the man who is respected. Neediness manifests in 1,000 ways. It is the desperate text messages, the constant need for reassurance, the fear of saying no, the inability to walk away. It is the man who makes her his world instead of building his own. It is the man who waits for permission to be valued instead of demanding it through his actions. It is the man who prioritizes being liked over being respected. And every time you do this, every time you place her above yourself, every time you put her on a pedestal, you diminish your worth in her eyes. You make it easy for her to ignore you. A man who is emotionally strong does not seek validation. He does not beg for attention. He does not panic when he is ignored. He does not crumble under rejection. He does not let the actions of another person dictate his emotions. He does not become frantic when things do not go his way. He does not lose control when a woman pulls away. He remains centered. He remains in control. He remains indifferent to anything that does not serve his higher purpose. And because of that, he is impossible to manipulate. He is impossible to discard. He is impossible to forget. Neediness is not just unattractive, it is dangerous. It makes you weak, it makes you dependent, it makes you vulnerable to being used, disrespected, and discarded. A man who is needy will tolerate disrespect just to avoid being alone. He will sacrifice his dignity for the illusion of companionship. He will endure mistreatment just to feel wanted. But a man who has mastered his emotions does not tolerate disrespect. He does not beg for what is freely given to others. He does not stay where he is not valued. He does not fear losing someone who does not value him because he knows his worth is not defined by external approval. The man who is emotionally strong commands attention. He is desired because he is rare. He is admired because he is unshaken. He is respected because he respects himself first. He is the man who can walk away without hesitation. He is the man who does not fear solitude because he has built himself into someone who is complete on his own. He is the man who does not place his happiness in the hands of another. He is the man who is independent, self-sufficient, and in control of his own destiny. And that is the man people want to be around. Women are not drawn to men who are emotionally fragile. They are not attracted to men who crumble at the first sign of distance. They are not obsessed with men who need them more than they need themselves. They chase the man who is a challenge. They pursue the man who is a fortress of strength. They are drawn to the man who is difficult to obtain, difficult to rattle, difficult to replace. They cannot control him, and that makes him irresistible. Every time you overreact, every time you seek validation, every time you try to convince someone to value you, you weaken your position. You make it known that you are not self-sufficient. You make it obvious that you are emotionally dependent. You give away all your power, and once power is lost, it is nearly impossible to regain. A man who is truly strong never loses it in the first place. Never allows his emotions to be dictated by external circumstances. He never gives another person control over his inner world. Emotional strength is not about suppressing emotions. It is about mastering them. It is about understanding that emotions are fleeting, that they do not define you, that they do not control you. It is about recognizing that no one else has the power to make you feel inferior unless you allow them to. It is about refusing to let temporary rejection shake permanent confidence. It is about maintaining an unshakable mindset no matter what is happening around you. And when you develop this level of emotional mastery, you become untouchable. A woman does not obsess over a man who is desperate for her approval. She does not value a man who crumbles under pressure. She does not admire a man who cannot stand firm in his own identity. She values the man who is emotionally controlled, who is unwavering, who does not let the actions of others determine his worth. She admires the man who is indifferent to rejection, who is selective with his energy, who does not hand out his time and attention like it is worthless. She desires the man who can walk away without looking back. Most men lose because they let emotions drive them instead of using emotions as fuel to build themselves. They panic when ignored. They chase when they should pull away. They react when they should remain calm. They let their fears dictate their actions. And because of that, they are discarded, overlooked, and forgotten. The men who win are the men who remain composed. The men who win are the men who do not let rejection affect their self-worth. The men who win are the men who are in control of themselves at all times. If you allow emotions to control you, you will always be a slave to them. If you need a woman's validation, you will never have her respect. If you cannot function without someone else's attention, you have already lost. You must become the source of your own strength. You must develop an internal foundation so solid that nothing and no one can shake it. You must be the man who remains unshaken in the face of uncertainty. You must be the man who does not need approval to feel worthy. And when you become that man, you become someone no one can ignore. A man without purpose is a man without value. A man who places a woman above his mission has already lost her. A man who makes chasing his primary focus will always end up empty-handed. The second you prioritize another person over your own destiny, you become weak. You become ordinary. You become forgettable. Women do not chase men who chase them. They chase men who are consumed by something greater than them. They obsess over men who are too busy building to be distracted. They respect men who have carved out their own path with such intensity that nothing can pull them away from it. Weak men believe that devotion to a woman will make them more attractive. They believe that the more they give, the more they are appreciated. They believe that sacrificing their ambition for love will make them more desirable. But in reality, nothing repels faster than a man who abandons his mission. The second you make her the center of your world, she starts looking for a man who has his own world. The moment you place her above your grind, she finds a man who is too focused to notice her. The chase does not create attraction. Purpose does. Power does. A man with direction is a man who cannot be ignored. A woman cannot follow a man who does not know where he is going. She cannot admire a man who is aimless. She cannot respect a man who has no vision. The second you drift without a goal, you become another disposable option. The second you let your emotions dictate your path, you lose your ability to lead. The world follows men who create. Men who conquer, men who impose their will onto reality and shape it into something undeniable. You are either that man or you are forgotten. Your life is either dictated by your mission or dictated by your emotions. The weak allow their feelings to lead them. The strong let their purpose command them. The second you shift your focus from a woman to your destiny, everything changes. You stop seeking attention. You stop craving approval. You stop waiting for validation. You wake up hungry to build. You wake up obsessed with mastery. You wake up determined to make an impact so powerful that the world has no choice but to acknowledge your existence. The men who are remembered are the men who build. The men who are respected are the men who lead. The men who are desired are the men who are unstoppable in their pursuit of greatness. Women do not idolize men who chase them. They idolize men who chase something bigger. They desire men who are untouchable, men who are disciplined, men who are so focused on their craft that nothing can break them. The second you shift from seeking to creating, you shift from being ignored to being pursued. The world does not reward men who wait for permission. It rewards men who take action. It rewards men who do not beg for opportunities, but create them. It rewards men who understand that power is not something you ask for, it is something you seize. And when you embrace this, you stop caring about who notices you. You stop wasting time on people who do not value you. You stop allowing yourself to be distracted by things that do not push you forward. Men without purpose are men who live for approval. They seek validation in the eyes of others because they have no internal foundation. They rely on external affection to feel whole because they have not built themselves into something unshakable. And because of this, they are at the mercy of the world. They are blown in every direction by the slightest breeze. They are dependent on things that can be taken away. A woman cannot respect a man who is controlled by external forces. She cannot admire a man who is lost. She cannot desire a man who is directionless. A man with purpose does not need to seek, he attracts. He does not need to convince, he demands respect through his presence. He does not need to plead for attention, he commands it through his actions. The men who are chaste are the men who do not waste time chasing. They are the men who are too busy becoming exceptional. They are the men who are so relentless in their pursuits that the world has no choice but to recognize them. The second you start prioritizing your mission over everything, you become untouchable. The second you refuse to be distracted by temporary pleasures, you become unstoppable. The second you dedicate yourself to absolute mastery, you separate yourself from the masses. Most men will never do this. Most men will live their lives seeking attention instead of respect. Most men will trade their ambitions for momentary validation. But the ones who refuse to settle, the ones who commit to their own greatness, the ones who put their legacy over their emotions, these are the men who rise. Your purpose is your power. Your mission is your fuel. Your vision is your weapon. When you have something greater than yourself driving you, you become a force of nature. You become a man who does not chase because he does not need to. You become a man who does not fold under pressure. You become a man who dictates his own worth. Women do not admire men who seek them out. They admire men who are too focused on their destiny to be distracted. And when you become that man, the world will move to meet your standards. If you want to be a man who is valued, respected, and desired, you must become the man who cannot be ignored. You must transform yourself into someone whose presence demands attention, not because you beg for it, but because you have built yourself into something undeniable. A woman does not obsess over a man who is always there, always seeking, always chasing. She obsesses over the man who is scarce, the man who is emotionally unshaken, the man who has a purpose greater than anything else. The moment you stop needing validation, you start commanding it. The moment you stop chasing, you start attracting. The moment you become a man who is too focused on his own mission to be swayed by temporary emotions, you separate yourself from the weak. The world bends to the will of the man who is too determined, too disciplined, too relentless to be ignored. And when you become that man, the chase reverses. Because nothing is more irresistible than a man who is too powerful to be controlled.